Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. Now, if you're watching on Warchant TV, you're saying, wait a minute, what's going on? It's Libations Friday. My man has recorded this hour. Well, we have to be. We don't have to be, but we want to be, and it's our job to be at the football luncheon, kickoff for spring football. Today, Mike Norvell addressing the media, allowing us to talk with his coaches as well as him. And then we're back live in a response to that conversation and what we learned at the luncheon in hour 2. So we wanted to get this hour in so that we could go over there and have those conversations and then relay those for you in hour 2. I'll be wearing this exact same thing. So will Tom. We're not changing. It's just an hour. That's it. Welcome in. Happy Libations Friday. Somewhat loosey-goosey, really busy. Thank goodness we have more and more football to add to the ledger of things to talk about today. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. Tom said it yesterday, and I agreed. I thought about it later on when I was driving home. It'll be interesting to see what those weights are for the new players, for the transfers, and then obviously the veteran players, whether they needed to lose weight, because we saw a lot of guys out there that look a lot better. Kanai Charlton, for example, looks a lot better than he did a year ago. I thought he was a kid that had talent a year ago, but every time I watched him, I thought, well, he can't do anything until you get some of that bad weight off you, and he had a lot of bad weight. He lost it. I saw that yesterday when we were out there watching him run around. He looks a lot more mobile. He's down a few lbs. I'm interested to find out how much. There are other guys, Patrick Payton. Tom mentioned him yesterday. Got to get bigger. He's got the quickness. He's got a lot of what for to him. He's a strong kid for his size. But big boy football that play for championships see bigger, stronger versions of Patrick Payton, and that's what he can become. I'm interested to see what his weight is. That's the point today. We're going to find out exactly what they did as a team as they really put in the time and really put in the effort. It was cool to listen to Coach Storms yesterday as well. I would think if you are a strength and conditioning coach and this is your time to shine, this is where you get the opportunity to mold this team that we think is going to have a great season, put them in a position to succeed, earn your money. But also most of these guys I've ever encountered over the years, these strength and conditioning coaches, first of all, they had a love of fitness. They had a love of strength. They had a love of making themselves better. It kind of led them to the field that they were in. They likely lifted heavy weights when they were in high school. From there, they wanted to learn more about exercise physiology. They wanted to learn more about how to most effectively source proteins and do the kinds of things you need to do to put yourself in a position to get stronger or get leaner or get faster or whatever it might be in terms of functional strength and explosive movements. But those guys usually went on down the road, got a master's, and later on PhD, and learned how the body works. But you get a chance, because normally when you put that knowledge to work, you get a chance to watch. It's a grand experiment. I mean, you get a kid and you can mold him. When he's 18 years old, he walks in. You don't know what kind of background he has, what kind of school he went to. Is he from a small town with not a lot of resources? And maybe the high school gym consisted of a bench and a squat rack and a few barbells, and that's it. None of the other stuff that they use now that help better train balance and explosive movements and functional strength. Other kids, you come in and you see that they are a grown-ass man already, and you think, my God, what am I going to do with this guy? He's already 6'4", 218 at 18 years old and can run like the wind blows. I'm talking about Hakeem Williams. What's he going to do with that kind of kid? What's the challenge there, by the way? Probably you want to add some speed. Probably maybe want to be sure that he's not going to become a tight end. He's huge. So all of these things are fun. This is his time to shine. It was cool to talk to him yesterday. I know how pumped up he is about the gains that they've made. Today we'll learn. In an hour or two, we'll tell you exactly what they are, because that's what's going to be revealed while you're watching this right now, while we're sitting over there talking to coaches. So I actually love this. It happens to coincide right alongside the Combine, which is going on in the NFL right now. I watched some of that yesterday, Tom. I don't know if you did. I watch Combine. I tend to do that anyhow. I want to look at guys that potentially the Bucs are going to take, or who are moving up and down the board for trade purposes, those kinds of things. So that's going on right now. Plenty of things to discuss there. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I'd say Combine for me, I'm cool on the Bucs for a little bit. It's not that I won't watch the games in the fall and I won't go to the draft party wherever we host it, whenever we host it. Got a pretty good idea of the where part of that equation. But they need a lot of pieces. So, and they may trade down to go get more pieces for themselves. So we'll see how that shakes out in the draft. At the top of my mind right now, away from Florida State football, is the baseball program.
Sure.
Because, this is going to be a fun series this weekend against Gulf Coast. Personal level of interest is to the NHL trade deadline. There's an arms race going on in the Eastern Conference. I'm watching that. And then the designated event down in Orlando, the Mr. Palmer event, as Jordan Spieth had a really good first day, but then John Rahm outclassed the field. So that's for
like he does on a daily basis.
My attention is split to those particular areas rather than the combine at this point. But you're right. I probably will get there earlier than I have in a long time for this luncheon. Usually I'm there about 5-10 minutes before Norvell speaks. And usually he's waiting there and counting down the clock and shouting at the top of his lungs how much time remains till he begins. But I want to take a look at those charts. I want, if we get the handout from Derek and the sports information staff, that's the first thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to have an intimate knowledge of about 4 or 5 players that I think made some changes, like Peyton and Josh Farmer and Kanaya Charlton and Shaheem Brown and so forth. And I'm going to go right to the page and take a look at where they list them for this year, assuming we get it. Now, if we don't, this is the ultimate tease with no payoff, but this is typically the order of events is at spring luncheon day is when you get to see the progress.
Well, it's a chance for them to brag on, and I don't think they would look at it as bragging, to highlight the process. So I don't think there's any chance we don't get that today, Tom. I think that there's 100% likelihood, 99.9% likelihood that we get that today. They're proud of what they've done. You know, it's also in lockstep with the overriding philosophy of Mike Norvell involving the press and his program. It's one of the things that we champion on a regular basis as members of the press. The access that we get, unfettered access that we get, coupled with the ability to reach out, as we did last week, whether it be to the head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. If you ask to have them on, given that open door policy they have, they're going to come on. They're going to grant you that interview. If they're in town and they have time, they're going to pick a day in the not too distant future, I might add. It's not, you got to wait a month. It's, sometime next week we can get to you. We've got a slot here or there in which we could work that in. That's because that transparency is born from confidence that they believe in what they're doing. And they don't mind talking about it. They don't mind championing their players. They don't mind showcasing the way they go about their business. That is really, in any walk of life, a welcome change. It's not what you see in big time corporations. It's not what you see in the NFL. It's not what you see in a lot of places. They don't need you. They don't want you to know how the cake is made. But that's not true anymore. That's not, not with this staff and not with this group. So we're going to get that information, I think, today. And I think we're going to be not pleasantly surprised, but I think our eyes are going to be opened in a couple of cases. There were a couple of guys whose bodies really altered this offseason, and that's exciting.
My question to you, after we take a look at those things, and please, folks, if you haven't already, check out the website, warchant.com. Check out our social media. I'm sure it is replete with information already. The coaching interviews will be uploaded. So during the break, if you want to take a look at some of the one-on-one interviews that we get today, it's all there for you, Warchant TV. Like the video, subscribe to us, absolutely free. But since you did talk to Coach Norvell, and since you did talk to the 2 coordinators, that predates today's meetings, I'm assuming you're going to want to talk to somebody else.
I'm going to talk to Tony Tokars. I talked to him last year at this time. I thought about it last night. It sounds really strange, but, I'm an open book. I thought about it laying in bed last night. What am I going to do? I'm going to talk to Tony Tokars. That's going to be my tradition. I'm going to lock in that interview. You guys don't have to worry about it. I'll record it, and I'm out the door. I'm getting back to the studio. So it's Tony Tokars for me or nothing. Hopefully you're there today, Tony. I'm going to sit down and talk with him about the fact that last year at this time, I asked him about Jordan Travis, as one would when talking to the quarterback's coach. I asked him if he thought he was prepared to take the necessary step to transform his game to one in which he could be a viable throwing quarterback. We already knew he could run. We already knew he could run like the wind blows. We already knew he could make people miss. We already knew he was a glorified running back and a really good one at that. I wanted to know, was the understanding of the offense, were the mechanics in place, the precision passes, the ability to throw with anticipation, in rhythm, Could he read a defense? Could he pre-snap? I wanted to know all of the things that he really didn't consistently do the year prior. He was a run first, get out of the pocket, one read quarterback 2 years ago. He is now a pre-snap understanding Jesse who will pick you apart from the pocket, doesn't even need to run. He can get better at two things, in my opinion. I'm going to ask about this today. His mechanics break down a little bit more often than I'm sure he'd like. And that leads to some of those weird passes where every now and again you're like, what the hell was that? He still does that. And I think he can remedy that. And then I want him to throw with a little bit more anticipation now that he's got a feel for the receivers. I understood why the year before he didn't really want to do that because the receivers were ass cheeks. The receivers didn't get open. They rarely got separation. If he would have thrown a lot of anticipatory passes, if you're watching, you got the animation. If he had thrown anticipatory passes 2 years ago, many of them would have been picked off. Guys not completing routes, guys not understanding routes or coverages, guys not sitting down against zone, guys not understanding where they needed to be. And at some point, if you're Jordan Travis and you don't want to turn the football over, you're thinking, well, all right, I'm going to have to see it before I believe it and throw it. That's not true anymore at all. Now you got a bunch of guys that you probably have a lot of faith in. So that should be the next step. I'll ask Tony about all of those things.
Yeah, that's actually a decent thing to expound on if Tony's willing to talk. And usually Tokars will give you good information.
Yeah, he's great.
But we often saw last year, if there was a breakdown on a pass, Jordan looking at the receiver and doing this whole thing as though there was a side adjustment that they missed that Jordan had correct. And that's why the ball went to a weird spot because they broke off in a different place or whatever. These rules that receivers have based upon leverage or the safeties or whatever coverage they can see.
It's usually the safeties, yeah.
Yeah, they have, options to do any number of routes and break off and run any number of routes. I'd be interested if Coach Tokars would be willing to tell you how often Jordan was correct about that versus not and how they smooth that process out. The other thing I'd be interested to hear, and I wonder if Coach Norvell will say this if he is asked or not, but knowing what Jordan is, even though you've got some new weapons here on the team, will there be an emphasis on greater reps for the other three quarterbacks that are here on scholarship, not walk-ons, but the other three scholarship quarterbacks, in order to flesh out a better idea of who your 2 and 3 are going to be going into this season? We all assume at present, and rightly so, that it's Tate Rodemaker followed by A.J. Duffy, and then the freshman Brock Glenn is just going to get his feet wet this camp. But will there be movement there? In quarterback 2, quarterback 3. And because Jordan is established now, would they dial him back certain days and allow these guys to go to battle to figure out and flesh out that particular issue? I wonder if either Tokars or Mike Norvell will be willing to go there, or if their canned answer would be something along the lines of, we do what we do, nothing changes.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tom. As you were asking it, when you posited that, I was quickly thinking in my head, my experience with coaches and what they do with starting quarterbacks and what Mike Norvell wants to do. And it is fascinating. I think it's a bit of a conundrum if you try to answer it head on and say, what would you want to do? I think you want a precise, free-flowing, easy to watch offense that has a diversity to it, and that requires an awful lot of reps, and it requires an understanding and to me, there's got to be a synergy there, right? Like these guys have all got to understand what's what all the time. They might already. You are going to try to work in a couple more guys into the mix here with Winston, right, is being a big one, and then obviously Hakeem Williams. I don't know how much they plan on playing him, but yeah, I would think he's going to play. He's got the body for it. So, I think, and you got these two new tight ends to go along with it. It's fascinating. I don't know how long it takes for them to feel comfortable enough to have days, as you described them, where you would just say, all right, Jordan, you got this. I don't want you to get a tired arm. We don't need to risk anything here. Let's just chill out and let the younger guys play with the ones. Let the younger guys play with the ones and get a feel. The backups can get a feel for how this offense would look if you go down for any reason.
It is a tough deal because it's not like you're returning 8 of the other 10 starters on offense. The offensive line could look completely different. We discussed that at length yesterday.
I think it's going to, yeah.
The tight end position is going to look completely different. Marquise and Douglas will be in that rotation for sure, but still, I mean, let's be honest here. You didn't bring these guys in to sit. And then you lose Pokey Wilson and you lose Malik McLean. So you've got to get that rotation squared away and those roles squared away. So there's communication at the line with protections. There's communication issues with the receivers. Yes, you have to iron that out, but you can't be doing that in fall camp. So, is it now the time that you invest? Maybe you set the tone and Jordan goes for the first couple of weeks. And then once you're into week 3 of spring, then you could dial it back for a day or two. I don't think, and just to let people in on the structure of practice, there isn't a whole ton of team every day. Some days have more than others, and they do situations like red zone or first and second down. But Jordan would never lose the ability, I wouldn't think, of the individual stuff where they do receiver on corners one-on-one. That's just a rotation of quarterback gets 3 or 4 throws, then the next quarterback gets 3 or 4 throws, and they go down the line.
That's all equal, too. That everybody gets the same number of reps in that.
That's correct. And then there are times where they do drills where they have one receiver for a quarterback and a line, and everybody throws. So 4 quarterbacks throwing at the same time. So it's not like he wouldn't get the reps. It's just when you get into full team 11 on 11, that'll be fascinating to document. I don't know how much we'll be able to speak on that on the fly.
Yeah.
But this is also insider tip for those of you that are consuming stuff on the Warchant message boards as we get to practice next week. When we do the bullet points with the names, just look at the names that are appearing more often than not, and you get kind of a picture of what's going on at practice. Hint, hint. And it's not necessarily about injury. It's just about spring is about experimentation and cross-training. So know that as well.
It's also about teaching, and it's about the fundamentals. So this is not going to be a conversation that reads similarly to the conversations we have in the fall, where you have to be on the giddy up for game preparation. Your first game is LSU. You're not going to be half-stepping. You're going to be repping and installing important offensive and defensive game plans for an elite opponent. So you're going to watch the ones out there a lot, and you're going to see scrimmages and things of that ilk, which is a lot different than what you're going to see in the spring here. I don't know how much 11 on 11 we're even going to get. There's a lot of teaching and a lot of, I think, grasping, especially for transfers and freshmen. Yep. You got to get transfers and freshmen. You're going to be relying on a lot of transfers, and you've got a few freshmen that probably going to see the field. And if you have an opportunity now to teach them the proper way and the way that you want them to do things, whether it be from the playbook or from football mechanics, this is the time to do that.
Yeah, what I find fun about this spring is last year, we talked about this at length, I think in the fall as well. It was about expansion of the playbook with Jordan. What could he run? How much could he run? And, he didn't look that great in spring, but the talking point at the time, I think, was correct. You got to know what he can and cannot do. There is a base set of the offense that we know will work with Jordan Travis. No sense working on that in spring. You got to figure out what you have in terms of a quarterback who can throw the ball, and his growth was exponential in a way that most everybody did not expect to see. But now you know what you can run with him. I don't know that there are more wrinkles in the playbook that you would add for Jordan. The wrinkles you would add are for new positions in the offense, like H-back with Jaheim Bell. Or if you like your starting 5 on the offensive line better going into this fall, you could go empty more often, and maybe, there's more wrinkles off of that. Longer drops for the quarterback, longer developing combinations down the field because you think you have a fighting chance for Jordan not to have to bail out and throw on the run, but just stand there, wait for something to come open, and then take advantage of it. So where last year the expansion of the playbook was all around what can my quarterback do, not anymore. It's about what can these skill weapons do, and what can we do now with offensive line depth. Maybe they come back. I keep harping on this, but maybe they come back to unbalanced offensive line play where you have 6 guys out there. I love power football, and Mike Norvell does too.
They're going to run the ball effectively on the vast majority of teams that they face this year. They're going to have all kinds of options to deploy when defenses adjust. And this is a bear to prepare for. If you're a team in the ACC, good luck. This is going to be a very good offense. I feel confident in saying that unequivocally. This is going to be a very, very, very good offense. Chef Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
We understand how important it is to have transportation you can rely on. So no matter what the road ahead brings, we'll be there. offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for over 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise.
I'm Andy Cohen with Florida Farm Bureau Insurance. Please call me at 850-671-FARM.
Motorcycle accident? Call Basic Brooks Law Offices, 777-7777.
Hey Tallahassee, it's Sarah with Seminole Auto Glass. You're probably driving right now, which means you're surrounded by glass. Did you know that each piece is made differently? Your windshield is 2 sheets of glass with a thin plastic in between. This allows it to take an impact without going all the way through. Side and back glasses are typically tempered. This strengthening process is what allows them to be shattered in the event of an emergency. Regardless of the glass or how it breaks, we can help. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass, proudly serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. Better call Seminole.
This is Kyle, Service Manager from Barano Heating and Air. Schedule an appointment from your mobile device to learn about our Total Comfort Service Program. With guaranteed same-day service, 15% off necessary repairs, and $25 berry books to use towards air filters and other products. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Any day, anytime, anywhere. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license CAC 1816-186.
Leaky faucet, busted pipes, clogged toilet? M&L Plumbing is here for you. For all commercial, construction, and residential plumbing issues, call M&L Plumbing at 575-9393 or visit online at mnlplumbing.com.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now. So you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Prior to the 1999 season, and I remember being so giddy because it was still fresh to me, still new to me to be able to cover the program. And I remember I was doing mornings at that time. Ross Brannon, who's still in town. Ross, if you're listening, I hope you're doing well, sir. He was an offensive lineman, a starting offensive lineman for Florida State. He came into the studio with Ryan Sprague, who was the starting tight end at the time. And I did an interview with those two. And in that interview, I said to them, given what that roster looked like, would it be a disappointment if you didn't go undefeated? That's how high expectations were, Tom, at that time in 99. There was no pretense of like, oh, well, you know, if they go 11-1 or 10-2, it's none of that nonsense. It was national championship or bust. and you should go undefeated. Like that's how good can you imagine that? That's the way Georgia felt 2 years ago. I'm sure they felt that way maybe last year. But that's the way, that's what you want to get to. You want to get to that sense of, look, there's no question marks. They're good. You don't know how health is going to play out. Nobody ever does. You don't know, you could have a bad day. And if you had a bad day against the wrong team who might not be at your level, but they're close enough that if you turned it over 3 or 4 times or gave up a special teams touchdown, you could lose. But short of that, if you were able to realize your potential or even come close to it, you were going to go undefeated. And the only question was, which of the 3 or 4 other teams in the nation that you think is loaded are you going to play for the national championship? Florida State's not at that place, but where they are, and I want to reiterate this based on what we saw yesterday, where they are is at a place that they have by the way, Ross Brandon's answer to that question was, yes, it would be a disappointment if they didn't go undefeated. So where they are now, Tom, is I think it would be disappointing to do I think the floor is 10-2. Mm-hmm. And you could go 10-2, and if the losses were by 3 and by 1 to LSU and Clemson, you and I already have this debate. If you avenged that loss in the ACC championship, I wouldn't call that a disappointing season. I would say that's within reason. You've got 2 other football teams that have really good football players. And LSU going into last year had more in terms of in the category of really good players because they had recruited better than Florida State for each of the last 5 years. So that it stood to reason. That these are 2 teams that will be on equal footing when they face each other in Orlando. That is a toss-up football game. I really believe it's a toss-up.
Yeah.
And then when you go on the road, say they make that a road night game at Clemson, well, it's not like Clemson hasn't recruited exceptionally well. So, you're going to be an underdog in that game. All right. So you could see where that would be reasonable. But I don't see anybody else on the schedule, given that the offensive line we looked at yesterday, Tom, is an offensive line that allows you to dominate most of the teams you play for several reasons. First of all, you want to run the ball. You design the run game exceptionally well. You are incredibly diverse in your run game. Florida State last year, we talked about this. We documented this a lot. There'd be games where they came out and killed them with outside zone. Then the next week, they'd come back and kill them with counter, and they'd come back and kill them with power. They could play it any way you wanted to play it. And they had the kind of diversity and talent in the offensive backfield, Tom, where you knew like you had different types of running backs, and you had and Jordan could run, and you had all these ways. That's not going to go away. It's only going to get better. It's only gotten better. You're deeper on the offensive line. You're bigger on the offensive line. You're loaded in the offensive backfield. Jordan's thicker and still can run. You got 2 new weapons at tight end that diversify that group. Last year, that tight end room we thought was cheeks going into the year. And now here you go. You got a group that you think is really talented. So again, that's only going to get better. The offense is only going to get better. And then from there, the other thing about yesterday that just left me brimming with confidence and to be bold about it, again, I feel like you have a rotation probably of around 5 guys at interior tackle.
Yeah.
Well, man, it has been so long since you could say that Florida State has the advantage in every game but 1 or 2 on the line of scrimmage, both lines of scrimmage, not one, both lines of scrimmage. Florida State will be the better team in the trenches in every game they play, except for 2. And even then, we're not real sure. I need to look at it. We'll decide before the Clemson game. We'll decide before the LSU game. But I know what LSU has coming back, and it's a lot. So, that may be even there. But goodness gracious.
Well, yeah, and you're correct. It's not a decided advantage. It's certainly not when you're talking about the top line on the depth chart. Where there is a difference, I agree with you, is when you get into that second level of the depth chart and you go across the board, tackle to tackle on offense or end to end on defense. Yeah, if you suffer an injury or 2 at those key positions, then you're not as deep and you're not as talented in the trenches as those 2 teams. But Mike Norvell has been operating at a deficit for a long time and competing and winning these games to a degree, the LSU game being the big one, on a more even footing than he should by rights, based upon what we have seen in the recruiting rankings and overall eye test talent that is easily visible. You can see it.
Yeah.
But Florida State will have the better quarterback, I think, in all 12 games this year. That's why, to me, this is a playoff or bust type season, because this is all a crescendo, all arriving in one place in one moment. And what you need to do is split those 2 games in September. If you can split the 2, then you are on the path to the playoff as long as you don't trip up somewhere else. And also, I'll add, again, if you beat LSU in that first week, you have the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. We are moving from a place back in 99, obviously, where if you lost a game, that might be one too many for you to play for the national championship, to now, if you're an SEC team or you're Ohio State, you automatically have a freebie before the season starts. You could lose a game, doesn't matter. They're going to put you in. If you win the conference and you go 12-1, you're going to the college football playoff. The ACC in Florida State is not there yet, but if we beat LSU, we will get the get-out-of-jail-free card, where if you beat Clemson, you could slip up on the road at Pitt. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And the next evolution is a 12-team playoff where everybody starts with at least one strike before the season begins, and there might be automatic tie-ins to conference champions. So the desperation of having to go perfect is not what it used to be. And if we beat LSU that first week, you to the wall, pelotas to the wall, then you are in a position where it gets really fun really fast. To me, this is a playoff or bust team because of the reasons you outlined. This offense should be in a position where they can score in so many different ways. The only concern I actually have is that they try to be 5 things at once instead of figure out week to week what they want to be, and they stick to a plan.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, you sometimes have so many options that it's too many, and you say, oh man, they're not one of anything. They're a sliver of a bunch of things. Jack of all trades, master of none type conversation. But I would tell you that it's such a fun conversation because this is 2 competing things that can be true. You don't think it's unreasonable for Florida State to lose 27-24 and 28-27. Like if they lose those 2, if those were the 2 scores, road game at night against Clemson, they lose 28-27 in an all-time great contest. And they lose on a last-second field goal in Orlando to an SEC West champion from a year ago that's only going to get better. I mean, you would admit that by rights, you cannot be mad about that.
Individually, you can't, but I would also say that we are at a program, we cover a program, we went to the school, that if in a given year they lose to both Miami and Florida when both those teams were good, let's just say in the heyday, and I understand this team isn't as talented as the heyday.
I was going to say.
But it would still be unacceptable. I don't care. I don't care that they lost to both of those teams by a score. I don't care.
No, but in those days, you had national championship caliber teams annually. I don't think this is a national championship team. I think they may be a college football playoff team. We have established that you don't have to be a national championship contender and you can still go to the college football playoff, which seems to be a catch-22, but I don't think it is. I think we realized TCU was not a national championship caliber team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking that this would be a wasted opportunity if they don't go.
That's a fair. Okay, I think that's a better way of saying it. I think you're right about that. I think it would be a wasted opportunity. It wouldn't be a bitter disappointment. It would be a wasted opportunity. And I think one of the reasons that we think it would be a wasted opportunity and why it would stick in your craw, maybe for some people longer than others, it's what you fear the following year is going to be. When you start over at quarterback and you don't have Superman. Yeah. That is understandably you're saying to yourself, well, guys, not only would we not have maximized our potential if we lose 2 games this year, and we would have lost the only 2 really good games that are on the schedule, and that's frustrating, but you do realize that this opportunity is not there the following year in all likelihood. I don't care how many transfer portal people they bring in. Are any of them going to play to the same level as Jordan Travis at quarterback this year? Probably not. The odds are probably not. Now, maybe you go out and you get the best quarterback in the land, and he says yes in the transfer portal if you deem it necessary to go that route. Perhaps, maybe, I don't know, A.J. Duffy takes a massive leap forward this year and becomes a more than viable option, but a plus player option. Maybe. I don't see that in him. I think his
Duffy. I think Duffy's a gamer, not a practicer, just from what I can tell, and that's limited game action. But it looks very easy and calm, and that's a rare trait, especially for a young player to look calm when they're facing down, a real live quote unquote football bullets. We'll see how that develops. He needs to be a better practicer to earn that hope and that trust next year. But the 2024 schedule includes a roadie to Notre Dame. And, I think that program is solid and they're at least physical. And that's going to be in November.
If you don't play well, you'll get beat. Yeah.
In the cold, in the dump of a town in November. So, and then you've got North Carolina. And as much of a fraud as Mac Brown is, that's going to be May's final year. So that's a toughie. And then, of course, you got Florida, Clemson. So that's going to be a group, and that's going to be a season that I think is going to be fun from an underdog perspective. Can you get to 10? Can you get to the ACC championship, assuming we're still in the ACC? Is that something that you can accomplish? Because even if you get to Charlotte next year, that's something worth celebrating, I think, with all the things that are going to depart from this roster. But this is the year. It's like we felt in 12. We didn't know what 13 was going to be, but a guy named Jameis Winston changed everything from the word go. But that 12 season, it was everybody's old. Everybody's been around. Let's go, EJ. Let's get the job done here. And it wasn't. And that was a bitter pill to swallow. Thankfully, though, it forged the veterans to come back another year, play pissed off, and take everybody's souls on the way to a national title.
You mentioned 2024. I can't let that go without looking at the 2024 schedule. You're right. It's Notre Dame, November the 9th. Is when you play them. That's also the year we welcome in Memphis to the schedule. Mike's old team comes in. That's a Saturday, September 14th. That's early in the season.
That's not a nothing game. Probably.
Yeah, no, you'll have to play well.
Yeah.
You're right. North Carolina's on that schedule. That year you play Miami at Miami. They may have awoken from their slumber by then. You do play Clemson. You do have Florida here. NC State, which if we're operating at peak efficiency, NC State's going to go back to taking these ass kickings like they deserve. That game will be in Tallahassee. We do have Virginia up in Charlottesville, the blinding beauty, Tom. We get a chance to make a visit. I'll take you on up there, buddy. We'll have a good time. I actually know that place really well. My sister once lived there. My nephew graduated law school from there. I've been there like 15 times. I'll take you all around Charlottesville. We'll have a blast. But yeah, that is an interesting schedule. And we're going to be trying to navigate our way through a lot of changes as we do present that schedule or play that schedule. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Gee, honey, I'm not going to lie. Our front yard is looking sad. Don't you think it's time for some TLJ?
I'm pretty sure you mean TLC, and I don't have time for all that work.
No, I'm talking about some TLJ, like in the radio commercials. Give your yard some TLJ from the Lawn Johns.
For all your lawn care and landscaping needs, give your yard the TLC it deserves with some TLJ. Call the Lawn Johns today for a free quote at 322-2567 or visit thelawnjohns.com.
My man, Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse?
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
Sort of an awkward segment. It's the final 10 minutes of an hour that we had to pre-record in order to get over to Florida State University and to be able to sit down and enjoy the luncheon. When this segment ends, you'll say, okay, well, that was what it was, a recorded hour, and hopefully you enjoyed it. But you'll know that on the other side, fresh-faced, ready to go, excited as could be, will be Jeff and Tom right on the heels of said luncheon. So we'll be able to give you some more information and be able to report some of the things we talked about this hour, which is those times and those weights and all those things that the off season provides you with these workouts and where they're at. And I don't know if Mike will reveal anything else of interest. I think sometimes, Tom, we've had it in situations in the spring in the past where if a player, knock on wood, this isn't the case, but if a player was leaving or a player was hurt, maybe needed surgery or something like that, knock on wood, that's not the case. Sometimes, Mike, if it was a foregone conclusion that he was not going to be available for the fall, would tell us that somebody was no longer with the team or not able to play this fall due to injury. So we're going to cross our fingers that there's nothing like that going on. But, you sometimes you wonder at the end of a hard-fought, hard-working tour of duty whether somebody's reconsidered, or maybe they've looked around and begun to smell the roses here or something like that. I don't know. That typically would happen at the end of spring football practice when a person realizes they're fourth on the depth chart and they thought they were going to start, or they're third on the depth chart and they know that they're not going to have the means by which to get to first. And so they'll say, okay, I got to go somewhere else. I got to go play football somewhere else. That I do think that's the next thing to prepare yourself for, Florida State fans, is that Florida State's roster and the competitive depth of said roster is at a place now where when we watch these transfer portal players ride out from program after program after program, we've been largely unaffected ourselves here. We've been the one that have been able to pluck away these better players and these good players from these other schools, either because they have a chance to move up, like, say, Byers from UTEP to a real school like Florida State, or if you're Jermaine Johnson and you're third on the depth chart to a bunch of other NFL guys and you're an NFL guy and you want to play every down and you like, well, I'm out of here. We've been able to grab those kinds of guys. Now, you already saw it once. Malik McClain is a starter in this league for every team in this league. And he's a guy, maybe Clemson, he wouldn't get as much run. Other than that, he's starting anywhere else in this league. And if you look around, he would start at a lot of the SEC schools. So he was a guy that was like, man, there's not enough footballs to go around. I'm not going to be showcased in the way that I want to be. I can go be a star at a big-time program somewhere else. Penn State saw that as well and said, okay, you're going to see more of that. There are going to be guys, because there are good football players here, and there aren't enough spots for all of them. Yeah.
I was going to say, you're going to see it on the offensive line in the next year or two where a guy leaves and you wince, which is just unbelievable. It might not be a crushing blow, but you go,
I got a couple of candidates right now on that offensive line. I think there's a few that I could name out loud right now. I'm not going to do that, but there's a couple of guys that I'm looking at right now that I think, I've dubbed this the camp of hurt feelings, and it's going to be a camp that hurts feelings. This is where guys realize, much to their chagrin, I'm not in the top two. I'm not getting out there. I'm the third string guard.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for somebody to distance themselves from the program after going through the tour of duty. That just seems like you're a masochist of some kind if you wanted to go through that and then say, all right, I'm done. That's good enough for me. You want to go.
Yeah, well, sometimes all I'm saying is sometimes, Tom, if you put forth an effort you thought was worthy of the tour of duty and you got yelled at every day and they told you it wasn't enough.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. I think, yes, you're correct that the export market is going to have more blue chippers with Florida State, logos attached to it than ever before. And they need to. I think their Scully count is a little dicey right now, so that's going to happen to some degree. We will see, though, for this year's purposes, Dimitri Emmanuel returning and being granted the waiver to come back for another season is not a small matter. Could he be passed over as a starter? Sure, absolutely.
I think so.
He could.
I think he will be.
Would he be valuable depth at the very, very least? Yes, he would. Darrell Jackson also with his waiver. These were questions that were asked to Mike Norvell yesterday. So I thought that in terms of the big questions that one would get to start a camp, one down. That's one of them, is about the waiver status for those two players. The next one is about injuries. And the next one that's more fun is about position changes. And we already know about one because Adam Fuller spoke to you one-on-one, and he said that Amari Cooper is going to play safety for the entirety of camp. Also, attached to that, they're going to be experimenting with Renardo Green, Jerrion Jones, and Azarie Thomas at nickel, but he wasn't married to that idea, you could tell. That's just kind of an experiment to see if they can get more good players on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe Mike Norvell has more position change news. It feels like Josh Burrell has changed positions 50 times already. We know that Kayshawn Sapp, or is it Kayshawn Sapp?
Yeah, no, you got it right.
No, Woody. Woody changed sides of the ball.
Oh, I thought you were saying the name. Just you didn't know if you had the name right. Yeah.
Woody changed sides of the ball last year. Is there somebody else flexing in or out or across the other way? Maybe there's a tight end that switches to linebacker. I don't know. But that's the fun question that we get to have asked and answered. But so we'll see how much news is coming from the head coach. But that's why I love the fact that we get 10 assistant coaches to talk to as well. There's always something that you didn't expect to hear. For me, last year, it was when I asked a question about Omarion Cooper and Kevin Knowles locking down 2 corner spots. Marcus Woodson said, well, hang on there, soldier. I'm not so sure about that. And that was eye-opening to me. Within 3 games during the season, I saw why he felt that way. We'll see what the position coaches and coordinators say today, though.
Well, it's a chance to talk to Patrick Surtain.
Yep.
I would think you'd want to do that again. Let's keep tradition alive. You had Woodson a year ago. Now you got a good coach
2 years
to talk to, and I get a chance to talk to Tony again. So I like it. I like it.
Are you doing a video for Tony, or are you just doing audio?
I'm just doing audio. We're not that vain.
Way to help the channel. No, I'm talking about just the, you shoot that it's just him. It's not you and him doing a selfie.
If you need me to sit there and hold the camera and hit record, I will do that. I think the audio is gold. But if we
hey man, that's Ira's call. It ain't my call. I'm sure we have an email to that end.
I'll have to check it. I'm getting ready to here in a minute before I head on out down the road over to FSU, and yeah, I'll race over to Tony and talk about. Well, it's funny. We were just talking a moment ago. I think it is infinitely intriguing, and I believe it is true at all these other positions, but it's also true at quarterback. Yeah, I got you, Jordan starter. We already know all that, but man, that's going to be a tough battle between Tate and AJ, and I want to see AJ take a huge leap forward, but I want to get Tony's thoughts on what he saw in year 1 from AJ. Were there things that he was really excited about that maybe we would have not known? We're not quarterback coaches, and he's with him every day. I don't know. Maybe he asked the right kind of questions already. I don't know. So that would be exciting to find out. And then are there things that he's really concerned about? That, hey, look, this is going to have to get a lot better. I think it will this spring and fall. He's not afraid to highlight those things and point them out and talk about where we're at in that process.
Yeah. The limitation for Duffy, to be fair to him, was we didn't have enough offensive linemen for him.
Oh, without question, yeah.
An honest rep. When they were doing 1s, 2s, and 3s and they were rotating, it's just not a fair assessment. And so that can get overwhelming and tough. So I will always put that qualifier out there before I say, I just wasn't impressed with him in practice. I was more impressed with him in limited game reps than I was in practice. That's not going to cut it anymore, because now you got a kid underneath you in the depth chart that's coming in hungry as well. This is what it's supposed to look like. The assembly line where you could get jumped if you have a bad few days in a row, unless your name is Jordan Travis or, I don't know, Jared versus Trey Benson. Otherwise, you could get jumped on this roster.
AJ Duffy was featured in one of my favorite moments last year of covering practice. They were in the indoor practice facility, and he made a ridiculously awesome throw against his body, rolling to his left. That was all at once a highlight of arm strength and deft touch. And when he made the throw, he was coming right towards me. And I was standing there, and I realized what he was about to try to do. And I thought, ooh, that's going to have to be perfect.
It was like the Ponder USF throw.
It was a perfect throw, and it was caught, and it was a touchdown, and it was awesome, and the place went nuts. But my favorite part about it was Mike Norvell went nuts and had a bunch of things to say, and AJ was too busy jogging down, I think, enjoying the moment, and it pissed Mike off. Mike's, hey, I'm talking to you. It's just, I watched that exchange, and as soon as the exchange was over, Mike looked at me and winked. It was outstanding. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. They have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer's skills in these matters.
CordellCordell.com. Lisa Cargis, Florida resident partner. Joseph Cordell, licensed in Missouri and Illinois only. 904-323-0000. 1 Independent Drive, Suite 2200, Jacksonville, Florida, 32202.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. Find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
On Twitter, it's at J Cameron Show. Yeah, it truly was loosey-goosey here today. I don't know what all happened. I can see that we I think we mixed and matched the first hour somehow. It didn't start on time. I don't know, but I think people in the chat got a normal hour, right?
They did. The one thing I'd say to the people out there, very important, you're listening to WVFT Gretna, Tallahassee. There you go.
Got it. You sounded it. You made it happen.
That's right. That's a legal ID.
That is a legal ID. Yeah, we put the first hour in the can before we raced over to the luncheon today at the Moore Athletic Center to listen to Mike Norvell address the press, talk about the build up to spring practice with the tour of duty. And then, of course, we had an opportunity to talk to coaches afterwards. And in the coming days, in the coming hours, but also days, we'll have a lot of that audio for you, a lot of that video for you. So check on Warchant.com and Warchant TV. And I don't know what we're going to be able to play and not play during this hour of the show, what we want to play this hour of the show. We got a lot, but Tom and I were on our way over here, so we could not have like a production meeting. I don't really know. Do you want to play my Tony Tokars interview today? Do we want to do what you got? Who did you get?
I talked to Coach Dugans and Coach Thompson, which, wow, what a difference a year makes with those kinds of conversations with position coaches.
Mm-hmm. They're going to be happy. What was served at the luncheon? All right, Kayvon, I'll give you that. You had a piece of chicken, which was really good, and then pulled pork sandwiches, along with mac and cheese and green beans. Very classic meal.
And baked beans.
Oh, baked beans. I forgot. The baked
yeah.
beans. Yeah, the baked beans were there too. Oh, and banana pudding if you wanted it. I didn't get any banana pudding, but I saw that some people were enamored with it. So that's what we got. And then also we got a bunch of coaches that I think are really pumped about football. They got to be, man. They've got to be. I don't know. Let's compare notes live on the air here. Something that I noted here, I listened closely, very closely. In hour one, I remember this part of the conversation from this morning you and I had. We speculated on just how much Jordan Travis we would see in the spring. You know, he is obviously well established. In my interview that I had with Tony, I asked him about the kinds of things that they're working on. And he pointed to the fact that, you know, Jordan's so special that a lot of times plays work even if he does it wrong. And that we would want to get a little bit more consistent with getting it right. And he was quick to say, now, wait a minute, I'm not trying to disparage him or say like that this happens a lot. But when you've played really well and you've shown an ability that is an elite level of ability that we saw last year, it is about refining the little things and doing the little things right. And then, again, repping that over and over and over again. So that kind of came up. He talked a little bit about, you know, when you are learning an offense and then trying to perfect it, that along the way, you know, not only do you have those successes and those are benchmarks, but then you look to see how much more efficient can I do this? How quickly can I go through these things? So, yeah, it's good. It's good. It was fun to listen to, but I especially liked the conversation about the other three quarterbacks. And that brings me back to comparing notes. Pretty clear, Tom, Norvell is going to give these other quarterbacks an awful lot of time in spring practice with the ones.
I was glad to hear that. I believe that was the final question of the day. I believe it was Ira's question. It was almost like an overtime.
The other guys in the room are, you know, we all know about Jordan. What do you think about those guys? And then he's very careful with the way that he words things. He's like, well, obviously, when you have a veteran like Jordan who's established and played a lot of football, there are times where, you know, obviously Jordan's got to get better, but we're going to pick and choose, you know, and he's clearly stating, look, they're going to give him a lot of rest. You don't want to overwork Jordan. He knows the offense. They'll do enough for him to get in rhythm with the newer guys and those kinds of things. But this is a wonderful opportunity for A.J. Duffy and Tate Rodemaker to take a huge step forward because they're going to get some extended time with the ones. And that was interesting.
He said that every one of the three scholarship backups is going to get time with the ones. And what do they do with those reps?
Yeah.
I love it. I hope they were going to do that. Open discussion in the first hour of the program. Would they admit to it? And then if so, how much would it be from Norvell's end or the quarterback's coach, Tony Tokars? That's going to make for an interesting day or two. We don't know when those are going to occur in camp. I would imagine it would be at full pads. You don't want to do it for acclimation day 1 or day 2 next Monday and Wednesday. But those days, take a look at those observations when we mention them. And I believe we can report on that those days because Mike has opened the door as they happen in real time. The battle for the number 2 position is on. That's what Mike just did. Coach Norvell just did. He threw the gauntlet down and said, here it is. We're going to get more answers to see who is prepared to take that mantle.
Friday is the first full pads day. So Monday and Wednesday, just helmets. These guys will be running around. We'll get another opportunity to observe body types and all that stuff that we've already talked about. But Friday is the full pad practice, and so that will be interesting. And you know, I'm anxious to see that because of the competition. He also accepted the many things that we've described about this offensive line being by far the deepest and best that he's had since he's been here. I would argue certainly the best that he's had ever, really, at any stop. This is a revelation to a lot of us here watching this team that they're going to have what may amount to the best offensive line in the ACC and may end up being one of the better offensive lines, you know, a top 20 type offensive line. They've got depth, they've got size, and they've got versatility. And I don't think they've ever had all three of those things since I've been covering them. They've had quality starters at times. I've mentioned that before where you've thought these 5 are really good. I like this guy first off the bench. After that, gets a little dicey. Better stay healthy. But this group, I mean, you really stumble all over yourself trying to make sure you remember all of the names of guys that are viable. So that's, you could tell he was giddy about that, giddy about the culture that continues to foster a really good locker room environment with the guys coming in. And he talked about the good and the bad of the transfer portal. And I thought that was interesting too. And I wanted to segue to that point here for a second. You know, one of the parts of Mike Norvell's personality that I think is appealing to both recruits and then obviously, I think for those of us that cover the team and have conversations with him when we get the opportunity to, Mike seems very pragmatic to me. He's a kind of a straightforward guy. He's careful about what he says and how he says it, but he's very pragmatic. He gets it. And he was talking about, look, the portal's a good thing for a lot of reasons. If you've exhausted opportunities and you've worked really hard and yet you don't see a path to play where you're currently at, well, there are opportunities out there. And I think it felt like he was talking about his own roster, that he was willing to accept that there are going to be some guys that might have to take it on down the road because opportunities here are not abundant. And he mentioned that we're very honest with these guys. We talk to these guys directly. Hey, you can stay, but just so you know, this is where it's at. This is where you sit right now as it pertains to reps and where you are in the depth chart. And I believe that 100%, that that's exactly the way they treat this, because it also serves them well on the other side when they tell transfer portal players, we would love to have you. I wouldn't be talking to you right now if we weren't interested. Understand this, you're not coming here just to hang out and just assume that you're going to play because you know you're an upgrade talent-wise over what we already have. I'm going to expect you to come in and work really hard because I need you to set the example for those other guys while they're trying to get better. And also, that's the culture we have here. And I think that's true. So I think on the one hand, he kind of let it be known that there's some guys that, are probably in a position where they need to think about taking it on down the road. And on the other hand, he sees the opportunities routinely in the portal to bring guys in and force the issue in terms of competition. So that was good. I appreciated that quite a bit. And I also think that at the end of the day, they know that culture is strong enough now where you can have those conversations. He was asked very late in the press conference, the reality of the portal being, how do you balance competition and reps with the idea of also wanting to make people happy? Because kids could choose to leave if they're unhappy. Do you play? In essence, he's being asked, do you placate them by giving them reps even if they're not? I mean, that's what he was being asked.
That's a good question.
It's a great question. I got to give Jerry Kutz credit for that question. But yeah, it was, do you placate them? He didn't say that. I'm saying that. That's what he was inferring. You give these guys reps, even though, probably not going to see the field, just so they feel like they're a part of something? Or does that distance grow and you have to deal with that? That's fun. And that is the reality of what modern coaches have to deal with, without question. I've wondered it from the beginning. If you got a freshman who you think is sensational, but he's just not ready, he's not mature enough, maybe he's not strong enough, maybe he doesn't know the playbook, but he is elite from an athletic standpoint, and he expects to play. He comes in thinking he's going to play. How do you balance that with, you're not ready. I'd really like to sit you. I'd really like to redshirt you. But I know if I do, you could leave.
Look, I mean, when he was answering that question, he wanted to say the two words Sam McCall,
yes,
but he was trying not to say it. About they can't see what's right in front of them. We can see it. There is a vision here, and some freshmen come in and they're just freaks, or they have a unique opportunity of, we're terrible at this position, so you need to go.
You're gonna play.
You have to play. That's not ideal either. That stunts your growth, even though it doesn't feel that way for a freshman. It can most certainly do that. But they just can't see in front of them. And there's a trust that needs to be leaned on there. But then also it just comes down to the kid making a choice and saying, okay, is it better for me long-term to go through this process? And that's another thing Coach Norvell said, which is, oh yeah, the reality is there are more snaps out there somewhere else. But what snaps you do get here, how do they prepare you for your last snap to be at the professional level and not in your college days? And I think that's a fair retort. And he had a chance to pivot and turn that into a pitch for the kids that are in the transfer portal or high school kids to see. And I think he did an effective job of it.
I think it's effective because I think that's the reality. That's what you have to say. I don't think you have to really engineer that response. I think it's just sort of a, hey, look, man, here's our reality. You could go elsewhere and play more right now than you're playing, but let's look at the big picture here. And when it comes to a guy like Sam McCall, I think there were other factors. Sam was impatient and wanted to be out there, but there were other factors. Sam had to take it on down the road because of what we know. So I don't think there was an option there. There have been guys here though that chose to leave that he's expressed frustration with. Like, you gotta work with me here, man. I'm telling you, if you're just patient, it's gonna work out for you. Doesn't work with everybody. Some people don't see it. I think that probably that would be applicable to a young man playing defensive back at Louisville currently. You know, I think that was one of those ones where had there been some patience, he could have continued to develop and maybe even played in some capacity for us. Because I thought he was, we all know what he was.
Hey, we needed the help last year.
Yeah, so he could have helped. Chef Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
A man who coached at Mitchell County High School, 44-year-old Derek Harris of Camilla, was arrested Wednesday. Law enforcement investigators obtained arrest warrants for 1 count of enticing a child for indecent purposes, 1 count sexual assault by persons with supervisory authority, 1 count sexual battery, and 2 count solicitation of sodomy. Mitchell County School District Superintendent Roland Cummings confirmed Thursday morning that Harris is on administrative leave at this time. Tallahassee Police Department is investigating the shooting of a man and woman at the 1400 block of Charlotte Street on Wednesday. The victims were shot outside at about 8:45 p.m., but TPD is still looking into the circumstances of how they were shot. The incident occurred in a residential area near Florida State University in West Tennessee Street. It is unclear if the pair were the intended targets of the gunfire. Both victims were transported to a hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries, but are listed as stable. TPD does not have any suspects at this time. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A wind advisory continues until 10 p.m. tonight. Chance for scattered storms this afternoon, otherwise overcast. High of 80, southerly winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected tonight. Chance for scattered thunderstorms, lows around 61. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 81. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 75.
Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Crawfordville Auto and Tire. Oh, hey there. I was just singing the praises of Crawfordville Auto and Tire. They do just about everything. Complete engine rebuilds, brakes, shocks, tires, oil change, you name it, they do it. And they offer a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. Most of the time, they can service your car the same day and offer towing to help you get to the shop. Now that's something to sing about. Open weekdays from 7:30 in the morning until 6 at night. Crawfordville Auto Repair and Tires.
If you think you can't afford a new hot tub, think again. The prices at Pinch a Penny will have you pinching yourself in the arm just to make sure you're not dreaming. Ow! Visit Pinch a Penny on Greer Street off Capitol Circle Northeast today.
Gee, honey, I'm not gonna lie. Our front yard is looking sad. Don't you think it's time for some TLJ?
I'm pretty sure you mean TLC, and I don't have time for all that work.
No, I'm talking about some TLJ, like in the radio commercials. Give your yard some TLJ from the Lawn Johns.
For all your lawn care and landscaping needs, give your yard the TLC it deserves with some TLJ. Call the Lawn Johns today for a free quote at 322-2567 or visit thelawnjohns.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home, contact our friend Shannon Young with Legendary Home Loans. Visit FSUHomeLoans.com. FSUHomeLoans.com.
I guess I should say the anniversary of the last coach's luncheon at the end of the tour of duty. I sat down with Tony Tokars. I've sat down with him twice for full-length interviews and discussions, and I've always found him to be intelligent and candid, and I appreciate the dialogue. And so when I ran into him today, I said, "You got a few minutes?" And you'll hear in a moment, I kind of referenced the interview we did a year ago because at that time we were asking a lot of questions about Jordan Travis and what would we see. And then you think about this conversation today on the heels of what we just saw. And I think he was excited to sit down and talk because he likes the room and he certainly has to be proud of his star pupil. This was me and Tony Tokars earlier today, just a couple hours ago, in fact, and his thoughts on the quarterback room. 1 year ago at this event, you and I were talking, and I was asking you about the progress that Jordan had made. And, at that time, Jordan had already proven that he was an elite runner and elusive and could buy time and make throws. And we talked about the next step in that development as a thrower.
Sure.
Well, then this year happened.
Yeah.
And you were very confident that that was going to happen at the time. You'd seen all the signs. I know Mike was asked about it beforehand, before you and I sat down, but what are the things that you're working with Jordan on now? After a season like that where he proved that he can be a complete quarterback and did so many things so well, what are you trying to see in terms of improvement for him now as we head into spring?
I think the biggest thing with him is the consistency and the fundamentals. He's smart. He understands the ins and outs of the offense. He knows what the issues are, and he knows what the solutions are. You go through and you watch self-scout. You watch a season's worth of film, and you go over that stuff with those guys. And, yeah, sometimes you have a end result that is pretty good, but it's not necessarily the way that you drew it up or it wasn't necessarily executed from a fundamental standpoint the way that you had worked on it throughout the week. So it's how can we help him execute at a consistently high level, being consistent fundamentally. Because you look at a lot of those times, and especially in high stress situations, one of the things that you can always fall back on is your fundamentals. When the bullets are flying, when the look isn't what you thought it would be, go back to your training and trust that. So just a consistency within that's what I would say.
Was there any area in this past season where Jordan actually surprised you with how far he had come? Like, you knew he was prepared to have success. You talked about how much work he had put in, but then you watch it play out. I know that it works both ways. Sometimes you see things, you're like, we got to work on that. But there's also times for coaches where you go, wow, that is a lot different. That's further along than I realized.
Sure. I think I don't want to cut Jordan short at all here or anything like that. But, I mean, I knew what he could be. Coach knew what he could be. And he went out and worked on it and just tried to prove it week in and week out. I think after our 3-game skid, he kicked it into overdrive, though. Not to say that his approach was poor or that he had bad habits before or anything, but he took complete ownership of what happened, whether it was truly his issue or not, and just willed our team, our program to finish the way that we did. I think that he's always going to make the plays that make you say, wow, that's part of who he is. And I'm really lucky to be his position coach. He makes me a better quarterback coach than I should get credit for. That's for sure.
So let's talk about the rest of that room, because there were also some great moments there for Tate Rodemaker. And I think for people like myself who covered this team, been here since before him and certainly watched him arrive, and we'd see it in practice. And we talked about this. We'd see it all the time in practice. And then the lights would come on. It didn't matter if it was a spring game or a scrimmage or a regular season game. It just didn't seem to translate as well. And then the Louisville game happens, and it starts as poorly as it does for him, and it ends as magnificently as it did. You must have been beaming with pride. I mean, you must have been overwhelmed. I mean, you see a moment like that, I know how invested you guys are in players. I would bring tears to your eyes to see that.
It was awesome. When I was able to get down from the box, that was the first person I was looking for. And one thing that was really cool, when I got down to the field, the person that was next to him was Jordan. And so to see the support that Tate had from other guys in the room, that he had from Jordan, it was unbelievable. So it wasn't even just me. It was the other guys on the team, the other guys in the room. They were fired up for him. And to be honest with you, I mean, that game, everybody saw it. Like you said, it didn't start great for him when he had to go in. And for him to respond the way that he did and come through in the clutch, I mean, those are the plays that he is capable of making.
When he throws that pick, are you, as a quarterback coach, are you thinking, oh, no, it's still too big for him? It's too. What are you doing in that moment to try to help? And what can you do?
In that moment, as soon as they get to the sideline, try and ask them, hey, what did you see? How did you see this? At that moment, I'll get a sense of if they're actually seeing the game and reacting to it, or if they're almost kind of, the lights are too bright. You know what I mean? It's that communication back and forth between player and coach where you get a sense of really if they're in it or if they're not. And that's one of those things that I gotta do a great job of understanding my players and how they communicate, because I'm not on the sidelines with them on game days. So I can't always see their eyes. You can tell a lot about a player in game just by that eye-to-eye contact and everything. And the other piece of that too is just the relationship that Coach Norvell and I have. I mean, we have to be able to trust each other and play off each other with the quarterback position, especially on game day. I mean, hey, how's he looking down there? Ask him what he saw. What do you think? And then what can we do to fix the issue, or what can we do to make it better, you know?
What are you expecting from him in this camp? Obviously, he's a guy now who should have some confidence.
Right.
And I'm going to ask about AJ in a second when we cover, but I'm just kind of curious what you want to see from Tate.
I'd like to see Tate come out, operate on a consistent basis, show growth in the command of the offense, because the reality of it is at the end of the day, Jordan still has taken the majority of the reps with the ones. Jordan has more reps under his belt than Tate does, but Tate needs to continue to maximize those reps for that growth. And I think, Coach said it earlier, I believe it said, force us to play you, force us to give you those opportunities. And I want to see Tate really continue to push on a consistent basis to go out and execute and force us to give him those opportunities.
What did you make of AJ in his first season?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not reasonable to necessarily expect a true freshman quarterback to come in and wow anybody.
Right.
They got to learn, they got to understand the playbook, and they got to find consistency in their own game. But what did you see from him assess his first season, and what do you expect for it this year?
So some of the things that we knew in the recruiting process from AJ, we knew that he was an intelligent, high football IQ type kid. He's got the physical ability to do what we ask him to do, especially within our scheme. He's a fit, right? Physically, he's a fit. Mentally, he's a fit for what we want to do. There's still the learning curve of being a young guy when you come in, though. So being able to apply meeting room to practice, to scrimmage, or to game, have that carryover from meeting to individual practice to live settings. I think that as the season progressed, he did much better with that. It'll be fun to see where AJ goes, just because, we talk about competition in our room all the time, and he's done a remarkable job this offseason, just in his maturity and growth as a leader, and as an individual, both on the field and off the field. So I'm pretty excited to get out there with age.
And final thing with Brock, what do you expect to see when you bring in a freshman quarterback? I know what you just said about AJ, but every player is different,
right?
And everybody's learning curve is different. We also don't know where they're at physically. I guess it could be an assessment.
Sure. Brock is, from a physical standpoint, we'll start there. That's kind of the easy stuff, right? He's a guy that's got a big arm. He's deceptively athletic. I think you guys get to see in some of the tour duty stuff. He moves a lot better than people thought he did. He's a weight room guy. I told a story back when we signed him. He used to go work out with the offensive linemen for multiple reasons. One, he's strong and he's an impressive person physically. But two, he believes in building that trust and having ownership of that group playing quarterback, From a mental standpoint, I think one of the things that's going to serve him best is the fact that he's a relentless worker. So physically, he's going to work his tail off, but that carries over to how we meet, to how he prepares himself, to how he studies. And all those things just kind of carry over into who he is as a person. He's a tough, physically, mentally, emotionally, he's a tough person. He's smart. He is a worker. And I think that the room feels that too. And that brings added value to the room and helps push everybody else in a healthy, competitive way.
Well, good luck. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Awesome.
Hopefully we're having another great conversation next year at this time about further growth and all that. But
absolutely.
Be well, man.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Give Give your business a facelift with a modern, consistent, creative brand overhaul from Curiosity Marketing Group. These days, it's not enough for your business just to have a standard website or a Google listing to reach your customers. Your business needs to stand out with eye-popping branding, modern web development, and strong marketing. And it takes a team to pull it all together. Words and websites matter. At Curiosity, we make the most of yours. Find out more at curiositymg.com.
I used to fight almost on a daily basis working on my business website. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I could never get it to function the way I needed it to, and I was losing customers because of it. That's when I called Curiosity Marketing. They listened, they understood, we collaborated, and in the end, they delivered beyond my highest expectations. Now, I can barely keep up with the work. They say the future belongs to the curious, and now I'm excited about the future of my business.
Find out more at curiositymg.com.
Hi, this is Jamie McClenny from Trek Financial in Tallahassee. Managing downside risk in your portfolio is one of the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement. Trillions of dollars in stimulus from the Federal Reserve and D.C. politicians, combined with zero interest rates, have propped up financial markets since the financial crisis ended in 2009. The Fed recently ended quantitative easing and has started to raise interest rates at a time when the global economy was already slowing. Have you considered what another 50% correction in the stock market would do to your retirement plan? If you're concerned about where this all might be headed and would like to find out about the potential benefits of an active risk management strategy for your portfolio, give me a call at 850-900-5200 and schedule a time for a review of your portfolio from an active risk management perspective.
Make Jamie your first call for a second opinion. Investment advisory services are offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Trucking accident? Call Basic Brooks Law Offices, 777-7777.
Tallahassee's 30-year-old funny paper and American Legion Post 13 have joined forces to become Major Morale. The new magazine has 4 more pages of post activities and military information that you probably never knew. But don't worry, it's still as politically correct and newsworthy as always. Okay, it's the same funny stuff, but it's still only available at the sponsors' locations like ABC Flooring, Tallahassee Automobile Museum, Krispy Kreme, or Keith Lawson Services, providing professional services and maintenance for your home's most critical systems for over 39 years. If you need air conditioning, heating, or plumbing repairs, you will receive an upfront written quote, and the job will be done on time by the area's most advanced, highly trained professionals. Keith Lawson Services, Florida license CMC 125456 and CFC 1429-197.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Describe it on the course was live and not on delay.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
At the person?
Yeah.
All right, John Rahm?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Well,
That's going to be a good one then.
It's a good one. Well, especially since she was not any good today.
Oh, he wasn't. I've got no idea what the board looks like today.
Yeah, I think he shot a 76 today.
Well, from what I heard, I mean, we are having a wind advisory here through 10 p.m. It's affecting down there pretty badly, right?
Yeah, depending on the window. So some guys are catching a little British Open action here where you're getting nonsense deciding the tournament. I don't want to say that's unfair to Kitayama, who played really well yesterday, and he's in the lead now. But, yeah, I mean, some of these windows are featuring far less wind Yeah, John shot a 76 today, so he goes 65, 76. You don't see that every day from him. And he's in the middle of the fairway with a mid-iron in his hand. And as soon as he hit it, he didn't like it. And it's colorful. It's the big one.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's a couple.
All right.
You remember I told you that I saw Hunter Mahan at Sawgrass years ago. So this is a good story, and I'll just tell it again really quick. I went over to Sawgrass. This is back when Hunter Mahan didn't suck. And he was teeing off. I can't remember the hole we were on. I walked a lot of them that day. And I was right next to this family, this dad and wife and their two kids, like 10 and 15, like my kids now. And they're all watching, and he yanks the hell out of one left. I mean, it's in danger of being OB when he hits it so far left, and he knows as soon as he hits it. And the whole tee box is lined with folks, and he drops down with an MF at the top of his lungs. I mean, the ball's barely off the club, and you hear the MF.
If it impresses you, because you got pipes on the golf course if it doesn't go well.
Yeah. I mean, I've been known to. Sure. Yeah. And
there may have been a recent. Well, you finish your story.
Yeah,
I'll tell mine.
And so then, anyhow, that happened, and I remember I'm laughing because not much offends me. I'm like, because I get it. I mean, we've all done it, and he's playing for money, and so that's a big deal. But that father was mortified. The look on his face. I was like, hey man, come on now, you're obviously a golf fan.
I think we were on 6T on Capital City, the par 3 up the hill.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, you're right.
And there was a group on 14
I didn't know there
green.
was a group on 14 green.
14 green. Mm-hmm. And it was probably 6 syllables worth of goodness.
I yanked it left. Yeah, it was too quick. I yanked it left, and as soon as I hit it.
There might have been a guy putting who turned around. I don't think he made that putt based upon the way he turned around.
I don't think he was mad at me. Just the timing. The timing was sort of, yeah. And I was like, as soon as I got done uttering what I uttered to get it off my chest.
I was standing to your left, so I could see it in the backdrop. Based upon his turnaround, I think that the yell happened right in the backstroke as he's taking the putter blade away. No doubt for money.
I want you to make sure you don't miss the John Rahm moment from today. It's up there with the great Tiger Woods moments. Really enjoyed that discussion. I got to tell you that we had with Tony today. I really enjoyed it. He's fun to talk to, and he's a genuine guy. He was last year when I talked to him, and that's a guy. I just want to say this: not a lot of people talk about the quarterback coach right now. The praise certainly, rightfully, understandably, goes to guys like Alex Atkins, who's done such a good job, and he's the OC and the offensive line coach, and he's been so effective as a recruiter as well. And then, of course, Mike Norvell, who calls the plays on game day and has done a really good job. Those numbers speak for themselves. But Tony bet on himself. You brought that up before. Tony could have taken another job and had an elevated position elsewhere, but he chose to stay on Mike's staff because he believes in Mike, and that's a testament to Mike. And he wanted to learn more from him, and then got his opportunity to be a quarterback coach. Now, it helps that, and he said as much, he was sort of self-deprecating there, where he's like, I'm made to look a lot better because of Jordan Travis. But, listen, I don't think it's by accident that he works with Jordan last year before the start of the season. Tony was a mobile quarterback himself at a lower level and is a really good athlete. And so I think there was some relatability there, and they talked a lot about kind of honing those skills and becoming a better passer. And you got to give him some credit too.
Absolutely. Now, he did stop short of saying he made me some money, but that's what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
But just in studying how they work at practice, there is an awful lot of one-on-one instruction on the field between Tony and the quarterbacks. Whereas in the past, we'll go back a couple of head coaches, it's like anything else. If you're Nick Saban's defensive backs coach, you're going to get interrupted a lot when there's instruction about technique. Nick is going to take over that discussion. That's his position of expertise.
Yeah.
In the same way here under Jimbo, the quarterback's coach was, a position that was filled, but Jimbo would interrupt and or lead the discussion with the quarterbacks most every practice. In this case, Coach Norvell is running all over the quadrant of the practice fields. They've got drills going in the 4 corners of the 2 fields that are outside. He is moving from place to place. He'll linger with the offensive side more often. That's natural. But Coach Tokars is leading the way with the quarterbacks for, what do you think, 80% of the instruction?
That's he is very well trusted.
And that is to say, right. And that is to say nothing about the meeting rooms and the individual rooms where the coaches set some time away, like office hours for a professor in college, where they can go one-on-one with their players. So that is not an on-field title in name only for Tony Tokars. He is very much the quarterback's coach here. And so whatever development happened, you have to give him credit. There are quarterbacks coaches in the past that I wouldn't. For him, absolutely.
Yeah, he deserves a lot of credit. This is a hardworking staff. That is not lost on me. The amount of time and effort. Now, listen, that's what you pay a large amount of money for guys to do. You know, they're not volunteers. I say it all the time. You know, I mean, if you're going to make millions of dollars, or in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's going to be an awful lot of responsibility put on you, and they demand not only expertise, but success on the field, as well as growth off of it, and they expect you to put in the time. And this staff is not lacking there. There have been staffs in the past where you weren't sure the commitment level across the board was there. That's another compliment that I can give this staff. That's not the case. These guys work really hard. We learned even more about that today in an off-the-record discussion that I had with Adam Fuller, who I think is really football savvy. I'm rooting for that guy to have success for all the obvious reasons, and that I want Florida State to win. And I think the next big step for this program will be for that defense to, in an accelerated manner, become more consistent against the better offenses. And in a modern football game, you can't judge great defense the way you once did. Even the really good defenses are going to give up points. But we can be better than we've been, and I think he's now armed with the ability to do that. Certainly we can have a lot of different looks now, and he's got a lot of guys competing, which should go a long way. But, you know, just talking with Adam and his commitment to these kids and his commitment to the work, putting in the work, you root for guys like that. You want them to have success. Tony's the same way. Obviously, this is a staff full of guys that we're pretty happy with right now.
I'll tell you that Coach Dugans is the same way, and I kind of joked about it at the beginning, but it's true. Like, if you were to put all of these videos out of interviews of the coaching staff on our Warchant TV enterprise, I don't know that the wide receivers coach would be that high on the list in the last couple of luncheons. But now, with that position group doing a complete 180,
yeah,
you now have a veteran presence with a guy like Micah Pittman or Johnny Wilson that have been a year into the system. Kentron's third year into the system.
Yeah.
Winston Wright is now closer to fully healthy. He looked very impressive yesterday at the Tour of Duty workouts. And you've got Hakeem Williams and Vendravius Jacobs now as true freshmen. It is a position that is really, really interesting. I didn't even bring up Darion Williamson, who Mike Norvell brings up at every turn as somebody who could be a difference maker. But you can see it in Coach Dugan's eyes, the relief from year to year, the relief that he feels about the situation where they have a variety of skill sets, and they're also going about things the right way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he goes out of his way to talk about Darion Williamson. And then also he mentioned Deuce Spann more than once today.
So did Coach Dugans. I'm glad you said that. Apparently he has been very, very good in workouts.
Yesterday, and I meant to tell you that, Tom, I screwed it up yesterday. For all of the verbiage we gave to every position group and incoming players and, you know, transfers and freshmen and all that, I wanted to mention that Deuce Spann looked good. He looked like he was in a good headspace. The reps were full, 100%, all in, all the time. He looked healthy and really fast, and we already know what his body type says he is. If that kid can learn to successfully run routes consistently, and I just think he's such a unique athlete. That's a guy we don't talk a lot about because of all of the people that have been ahead of him on the depth chart. And because he's only been a receiver for 2 years. You know, he was a quarterback in high school. I'm obviously rooting for him. He's a Lakewood guy. But he's a guy who has the ability to maybe be an NFL wide receiver. And who knows where he ends up this year. I mean, that first full year at receiver this past year. And obviously he had a lot of growing up to do in terms of understanding the position, what was being asked of him, and then the consistency. And it wasn't there. It wasn't there a year ago, and he had too many guys. So it's just exciting to think about that guy also taking a step forward, along with Williamson.
It's also worth reflecting that one of the best moments of the year in terms of us being able to see on-field coaching was Deuce Spann and Mike Norvell's interaction in the Miami game. in which there was a blow up on the sideline.
Yeah.
Coach Norvell made a choice. You could see him going through the math of, should I stay here and focus on the big picture, or should I go chase this young man and have a conversation? Norvell did. Next time they get the ball, they give the ball back to the player.
First play.
That's one of the great moments. And if his career takes off at Florida State,
You'll remember that moment, yeah.
that's the moment it changed.
Mike does it a lot. He does it a lot. It's another brownie point for Mike. I mean, there are things that I still want to see him get better at. There's no perfect coach. I get it. I'm not trying to tell somebody anything that's absurd, but he does a lot of things that endear him to this team, to this program, to these fans. We got to take an extra break this hour. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Come back. We'll wrap it up momentarily.
Your local news now.
A man who coached at Mitchell County High School, 44-year-old Derek Harris of Camilla, was arrested Wednesday. Law enforcement investigators obtained arrest warrants for 1 count of enticing a child for indecent purposes, 1 count sexual assault by persons with supervisory authority, 1 count sexual battery, and 2 count solicitation of sodomy. Mitchell County School District Superintendent Roland Cummings confirmed Thursday morning that Harris is on administrative leave at this time. Tallahassee Police Department is investigating the shooting of a man and woman at the 1400 block of Charlotte Street on Wednesday. The victims were shot outside at about 8:45 p.m., but TPD is still looking into the circumstances of how they were shot. The incident occurred in the residential area near Florida State University in West Tennessee Street. It is unclear if the pair were the intended targets of the gunfire. Both victims were transported to a hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries, but are listed at stable. TPD does not have any suspects at this time. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A wind advisory continues until 10 p.m. tonight. Chance for scattered storms this afternoon, otherwise overcast. High of 80, southerly winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Cloudy skies expected tonight. Chance for scattered thunderstorms, lows around 61. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. Tomorrow, high temperatures reach up to 81. This report is brought to you by the Luncheons. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit theluncheons.com. Right now, 75.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. My man, Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space.
Well,
you got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, longevity time, a mouse.
Slow burn.
Slow burn.
Just finish the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
It may or may not happen. I'm thinking it's going to happen.
There will be espresso
martinis?
Yes. There it is. I was going to say espresso adult beverages for me later on tonight. Probably wait till the latter innings of the baseball game.
What time is first pitch?
It's a great question. I'll let you know in a minute.
Oh, I would think I'd know that, but we've been busy today with football, man. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do about it? 5 o'clock. So they are very easy. Odd number start times this weekend, 5, 3, and 1. Today, tomorrow, Sunday.
Yeah, this is a fun team, and if we don't get a ton of rain out there, maybe making my way over to the ballpark. You're right. Was actually talking about Florida State baseball with Adam Fuller today. And he being from a major league town, I told him before you sat down that you and he share a similar background and then turnaround. I said, when Tom first, the thought of watching college baseball at first, given that he's a professional baseball fan from New York, from that market with the Mets, it was like, I don't know about college baseball, but you learn to separate the two and love college baseball for what it is and how unique it is at Florida State.
Also, thankfully, the bat's deadening a little bit has helped, and the baseball seam's coming down.
Yeah, things helped. Yeah, they made rules that made it more resemble the pro game than it used to. 18-15 doesn't happen anymore, thankfully. It used to on the regular. And so Adam said, yeah, I'm starting to pay attention. I'm starting to like it. I'm starting to, obviously I'm rooting for all the other programs to do well because they all know the other coaches. But he was talking about the carry-on triple and the 13th, and then the Sadis pop-up that falls. And
we're thankful for that.
Yeah, very thankful for that. And we were going through the conversation, and we were just kind of talking about college baseball. I said, when I first got here, same thing. I didn't love college baseball, but I mentioned I used to do my homework out in the bleachers, then you start to fall in love with it. And Florida State has such a rich history and a passion, and you can get into it, and then you kind of won over. And he's like, I think I'm won over. I'm going to start working from the baseball stadium. I'm like, there you go. There you go. Start putting in the work at the baseball stadium. These luncheons allow for us to have side conversations with all the coaches, and you always learn something. You always learn something about not just their backgrounds and the way they view the sport or what it is that they are teaching, but also their view of the downtime, and they don't get a lot of it, and where they spend it. So that, too, is fun.
Got a question about the wind today. It's blowing from right field to left field. It's kind of a cross breeze, and it'll be strong tonight.
Could very well be an ugly night at the ballpark. We'll see.
Line drives to left are going over the fence.
Yeah. Good work out of you, and thanks to everybody who tuned in. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your weekend, and be safe. We'll talk to you on Monday. Peace.